Hi, my name is Mike Tyrrell. I'm the editor of SRI Connect. Over the next 5 minutes, I'm going to take you through a 10-step process that will help quoted companies take control of their communications with sustainable and responsible investors, or indeed any investors interested in their social, environmental and economic performance, as well as their financial and investment performance. Now, a lot of companies find the process of communications on sustainability issues to be painful, inefficient and unrewarding. They find the experience to be dominated by questionnaires that they don't understand, sent by people they don't know. At the same time, there's a great appetite amongst companies to communicate more to investors about their approach to CSR and sustainability. Because SRI investors take a more holistic view of company activity and tend to consider the longer timeframes that companies often wish all investors would take into account. I'm going to refer a lot in this presentation to sriconnect.com, which is an online global marketplace for SRI research and a meeting point for companies, investors and their respective advisors. Here's the homepage of the site. It's been operating for a year now and has over 1,000 members, all of whom have a direct professional exposure from either the company or the investor side in corporate sustainability or responsible investment. Amongst other things, the site provides a way for companies to distribute their CSR or sustainability reports to a targeted group of investors, to share with sector peers and others experience of what works in SRI communications, to identify which particular analysts, portfolio managers are interested in their sector or stock, and to host and manage meetings and presentations for the SRI analyst community. That's the advert over. And this is me, Mike Tyrrell. I've worked in SRI for 15 years. Initially as an SRI analyst at Jupiter, where I was responsible for assessing companies for inclusion within specialist funds. After 5 years of doing that, I moved to HSBC Global Equities, where I set up the first SRI research capability within the equity research department of an investment bank. 4 years later, I moved to City Investment Research to do much the same thing, to write research on the environmental and social factors that contributed to investment recommendations, and to facilitate direct communications between companies and investors. I left Citi at the end of 2008 and no longer wear a suit and tie. I've become the ultimate cliche. An ex-banker becomes web developer. So why should companies communicate proactively with investors on their social and environmental performance? Well, on this slide, we've set out a number of the reasons. And so how to do it? The 10 steps we're going to take you through are very practical steps. They don't introduce new ideas, new themes, new analytical techniques, or new communications priorities. They're simply about maximizing the efficiency of the time companies spend communicating their sustainability performance to investors. In fact, it's probably even simpler than that. We hope that these 10 steps will encourage all quoted companies to apply the same simple, disciplined investor relations processes to their SRI communications as they do to their mainstream investor communications. Step 1. Understand SRI. The first thing that companies need to do, of course, is to understand the SRI industry. To do this, we've written 2 basic guides, the SRI Primer and the Ecology of SRI. They're both free to access. You don't even have to register with the site. They do not contain proprietary information, just simple descriptions of the SRI process, its market size, an introduction to the key players, etc. Now at this point, let me just clarify. When I say sustainable and responsible investment, SRI, I mean all investment with an interest in the company's social and environmental performance. SRI is clearly a broad spectrum that ranges from those who apply ethical screens based on strict religious or moral conviction, all the way through to strategies deployed by mainstream investors who see environmental or social information as ways of uncovering hidden value or opportunity. Step 2. Identify SRI investor interest. The second rangefinder step for companies is to understand how interested SRI investors are likely to be in them. To help with this, we've devised a quick Cosmo quiz that companies can use to score themselves according to the company's size, their country of listing, the level of social and environmental impact they have, etc. The more points you score, the more communication investors are likely to expect. By taking your company's score, you can determine the level of engagement, that investors are likely to demand if they're to hold your stock and or vote in favour of management recommendations at AGMs. As you can see, the level of engagement required ranges from a simple act of publishing a CSR report and answering questions if they come in, to regular presentations by senior management to key investors with an interest in this area. Step 3. Create a register of SRI interest. As with any communications process, it's important to know with whom you're communicating. So we advise companies to undertake a quick exercise that maps their top 20 investors for SRI interest, to identify how they're rated by the principal agencies and which funds and SRI industries they are held in. Much of this can be done pretty quickly using SRI Connect. At this stage, I should also mention the spreadsheet that accompanies this presentation and enables companies to work through the 10-step process in a structured way. Again, the spreadsheet can be downloaded from the site. Step 4. Record recent activity. Surprisingly, perhaps, few companies keep a record of their SRI communications. They complete questionnaires, they have ad hoc meetings with analysts, and they respond to inquiries that from investors that come to them. But they rarely write it down, which means they have to reinvent the wheel of SRI communications every year. Step 5. Plan. It sounds simple, but it's rarely done. In January of every year, companies should write down on one piece of paper how they plan to communicate with SRI investors in the year ahead. This little plan should outline what the company aims to get from the engagement, who's going to be responsible, what time and resources will be allocated, what the company expects in return, etc. As I say, it shouldn't take long, it shouldn't require more than one piece of paper, but it will make the world of difference. If a company was being really organised, they might even sketch out a rough timetable such as the one shown here. If this is done, then the company should make sure they publish it. An investor or analyst won't send you questions in March if they know you're going to be presenting in April. Or if they do, you're entitled to tell them where to go. Step 6. Shape the key messages. Now, most companies will use the content of their CSR or sustainability report as the basis for communications with investors. However, advanced companies that are keen to demonstrate an investable case behind their sustainability performance will need to do a little more preparation than that. They can do this by organising a meeting that brings together their investor relations team, their CSR and sustainability team, and their business strategists, if such people exist within the company. This team then needs to find answers to the questions outlined on this slide. Which external factors are most important to understanding the company's markets and strategic positioning? Which 5 internal performance factors give most insight into the company's long-term business prospects? What external factors will impact the company most? What external sustainability factors, will impact the company most? What are the company's priority areas for sustainability action? And then most importantly of all, what's the overlap between them all? It's the points of overlap that should form the core and focus of any presentation to sustainability investors. Step 7. Report. Now, many companies consider the publication of a CSR or sustainability report to be the first step in their external communications for the year. We would regard it as the 7th. What is more, we would strongly advise that companies spend a little less time putting the report together and a little more time focusing on how to ensure that it's distributed to the target audience. There is simply no point producing a sustainability report, posting it on the website, and disappearing on holiday. It just won't get read by investors. Step 8. Roadshow. Within mainstream investment, it's standard practice for companies to undertake roadshows to meet with their main investors and their target investors, to present their performance and strategy, and to answer any questions the investors may have. There's no reason why our SRI should be any different. Indeed, the majority of large European companies, some leading US companies, and a handful of others now regard an SRI roadshow as a standard part of their communications for the year. They typically aim to see on this roadshow as many buy-side institutional investors as they can, to communicate their performance directly to the people who are likely to buy, hold, or sell their stock. They will typically use sell-side brokers to help with investor targeting and roadshow execution, particularly as these brokers will provide the service for free. They make their money from trading commission paid by investors. However, very few companies organise presentations to sell-side analysts or to the SRI agencies. This is a mistake. The specialist SRI analysts on the sell side can be extremely influential in the way that SRI investors rate companies, and companies will do well to ensure that they have communicated their story directly to these analysts. Equally, the SRI agency analysts can also be influential, as they produce the ratings and analysis that many SRI funds use. Also, as the prime senders of questionnaires, inviting them to a results presentation should significantly reduce the number of questionnaires that companies are asked to answer later in the year. So here we give a simple example of how, in a day and a half, a large quoted company can communicate with all of its key SRI investor audiences, and the agencies and the research providers that support them. Efficiency is maximised by using a considered combination of one-on-one meetings, group meetings, teleconferences, video conferences, and webcasts. Step 9. Respond. The more proactive companies are about their communications, the less they will have to respond to incoming requests. However, it's still worth ensuring that any incoming requests are channeled effectively. In this respect, we recommend that companies publish clear points of responsibility for responding to questions from SRI investors. Specifically, one member of the IR team and the head of CSR or sustainability. Step 10. Rest. In mainstream investment, there are clear rules over when companies will and will not communicate with investors. This is largely done to ensure market integrity, but it has a secondary benefit of creating structure and timetable for the communications process. The same should be applied to SRI. There should be periods when companies communicate proactively and respond to incoming interest. Then there should be periods when they are left to get on with running the business and making it more sustainable. Of course, if a company blows up a factory, is caught abusing employee rights, or launches a new product with significant sustainability benefits, they should expect out-of-hours interest. But otherwise, they should be left alone. So where do you go next? Well, you have 4 options. You can keep doing what you've always done because you enjoy pain and inefficiency. Or you can register with SRI Connect and work through the steps yourself for free to improve your communications with this influential group of investors. Alternatively, if you need additional capacity, you should approach your existing CSR, IR, or reporting consultant. We're very happy to make all of our advice and information available to them for free to help them help you. As a last resort, you can take a look at www.sustainableinvestor.org. It's the consultancy business that I run alongside SRI Connect to help companies improve their communications in this regard. But let me be clear, my main job is to build and develop SRI Connect. I will do consultancy work if companies can't find anyone else, but would much rather they use their current retained consultant to help them. So where can you find out more? Well, obviously SRI Connect. You'll find this presentation, an 80-page guidance note that backs it up, and a spreadsheet that helps you through the steps on it. Under the menu path, info and comment, SRI Dynamics, take control of SRI Communications. Or you can use the Ask Any Question function on the site. Or you can send me a question directly. And please remember, this simple process really can halve the time your company spends on SRI and double the impact you have.